There is a thief in your home right now. It doesn't break in. It doesn't take your wallet. You will never see it, never hear it, never catch it in the act. And yet, year after year, quietly and relentlessly, it is stealing from you. From your savings, your salary, your future. And most people don't even know its name. It's not a person. It's not a scam. It's a force. And it is so patient, so invisible, that it can take the money you worked your whole life to save and slowly drain its value down to a fraction of what it once was, without ever touching a single dollar in your account. The number in your bank can stay exactly the same, and you can still be getting poorer every single year while you sleep. The thief has a name. You've heard it 1,000 times on the news, said so often it's become background noise. Inflation. But almost nobody truly understands what it is, where it comes from, or just how much it is quietly taken from them over a lifetime. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what inflation really is, the surprising place it actually comes from, why it punishes savers and rewards a select few, and the hard lessons that can turn you from its victim into one of the rare people who actually beats it. Let's get into it. Let's start with the simplest possible picture, because inflation is one of those things that sounds complicated and is actually beautifully simple once you see it. Imagine a tiny island with only 10 people on it, and on this island there are exactly 10 apples, and there is exactly $10 in total, $1 for each person. If everyone wants apples, what's the natural price of an apple? About $1. $10 chasing 10 apples. $1, 1 apple. Simple. Now, overnight, a magician waves a wand and doubles the money. Suddenly, every person has $2 instead of 1. There are now $20 on the island. But here's the crucial part. There are still only 10 apples. Nothing was actually produced. No new apples grew. There's just more money. So what happens to the price of an apple? It rises. Now there's $20 chasing those same 10 apples, and the price drifts up toward $2. The apple didn't change. The apple is exactly the same apple it always was. What changed is that each dollar is now worth less, because there are more of them chasing the same amount of stuff. That is inflation in its purest form. Prices don't rise because things suddenly become more valuable. Prices rise because each unit of money becomes worth less. Inflation isn't really things getting more expensive, it's your money getting weaker. And once you understand that distinction, you understand the whole game. So this raises the most important question of all, the one that unlocks everything. Where does the extra money come from? Who is the magician with the wand, doubling the money on the island? And here is the answer that surprises most people. In the modern world, money isn't backed by gold sitting in a vault anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. Today, money can essentially be created. New money enters the economy in a few main ways, and the biggest levers are pulled by central banks and governments. When a government spends more than it takes in, when a central bank pumps new money into the system to keep the economy moving, when banks themselves create money by lending, remember our goldsmith ticket, the total pile of money in the world grows. There's no physical printing press spitting out mountains of bills for most of it. These days, new money is often created with nothing more than a few keystrokes, numbers typed into existence on a screen. That's the strange, almost dizzying truth of modern money. It isn't dug out of the ground or backed by treasure in a vault. It's a shared agreement, an idea we all accept. And an idea can be created out of thin air far more easily than gold ever could. That ease is exactly what makes the thief possible. Now, a little bit of this is considered normal, even healthy. Most modern economies actually aim for a small, steady amount of inflation every year, often around 2%. The idea is that a gently rising price level keeps people spending and the economy moving, rather than hoarding cash and freezing up. So a slow trickle of new money is, by design, baked into the system. But here's the thing about a trickle. Over a long enough time, a trickle carves a canyon. Let me show you just how powerful this quiet erosion really is. because the numbers are genuinely shocking when you stretch them across a lifetime. At a steady inflation rate of around 3% a year, which is fairly typical over the long run, the buying power of your money roughly cuts in half in a little over 2 decades. Sit with that. Money you tuck under the mattress today could buy only half as much in about 23 years, even though the number written on the bills never changed by a single cent. Wait long enough, and that same money buys a quarter, then a fraction. This is why your grandparents talk about a loaf of bread or a movie ticket or a house costing a tiny fraction of what it costs today. They're not exaggerating, and the world didn't go mad. That is inflation, viewed across a lifetime. The slow, relentless weakening of money, compounding year after year after year until the prices of the past look almost unbelievable. And now we arrive at the part that should make you sit up. Because inflation is not just a force of nature that floats down evenly on everyone. It quietly takes from some people and hands to others. There are clear winners and clear losers in this game, and which one you are depends entirely on whether you understand the rules. So let's talk about who inflation punishes. And the answer is brutally simple. Inflation is a tax on people who hold cash. The saver. The careful person who did everything they were told, worked hard, spent little, and stacked their money safely in the bank. If your money is sitting in cash, or in an account paying you almost nothing, inflation is eating it alive. Every year that prices rise faster than your money grows, you are quietly getting poorer, no matter how disciplined you are. The most responsible thing, hoarding cash, is, in an inflationary world, secretly one of the most costly. And remember the bank from our last story. This is where it gets even more painful. Your bank pays you a fraction of a percent, but inflation runs at 2, 3, 4% or more. So the careful saver gets hit twice, earning almost nothing from the bank, while inflation erodes the value of the very money sitting there. You feel safe. The number isn't dropping, but its power to buy your life, food, rent, fuel, a future, is shrinking the whole time. Let's make it concrete. Say you tuck away $10,000 and your bank pays you a generous-sounding 1%. After a year, you have $10,100. You feel like you gained. But if inflation that year ran at 4%, the things that cost $10,000 now cost $10,400. So your money grew by 100, while the world around it got 400 more expensive. In real terms, you didn't gain $100. You quietly lost 300. The bank statement says you're up. Reality says you're down. And that gap between the comforting number and the shrinking power behind it is precisely where the thief does its work, in the blind spot where most people never think to look. So who wins? Who does inflation quietly reward? And this is the part that flips the whole picture on its head. Inflation rewards the borrower, specifically the person who borrows money to own real, valuable things. Here's the magic, and it's worth understanding slowly. Imagine you borrow a large sum to buy a house. That debt is a fixed number. Say you owe a certain amount, frozen in time. Now let inflation do its work for 20 years. Prices rise, wages rise, the value of the house tends to rise. But the debt? The debt stays the same number. And because money is now weaker, that fixed debt becomes easier and easier to pay off in real terms. Inflation is quietly shrinking your debt while the thing you bought with it tends to hold or grow its value. The borrower, in effect, pays back the loan with weaker money than they borrowed. Picture two people, 20 years ago. One saved a large pile of cash and sat on it, proud and careful. The other took on a sensible loan to buy a home and held it. 2 decades later, the saver's cash buys roughly half of what it used to, patient, disciplined, and quietly robbed. Meanwhile, the homeowner's debt has shrunk in real weight to a shadow of what it once felt like, while the home itself tends to have climbed in value. Same 20 years, same starting point, opposite outcomes. Not because one worked harder, but because one understood the current they were swimming in and the other didn't. Do you see the cruel symmetry? Inflation silently transfers wealth from the savers holding cash to the people who borrow to own real assets. The cautious are punished, the strategic are rewarded, and the difference between them isn't luck or even income, it's understanding. This is the secret that the financially educated have always known. In a world with built-in inflation, simply holding cash is like holding an ice cube in your hand and wondering why it's getting smaller. The goal isn't to hoard money, it's to convert money into things that hold or grow their value faster than the money decays. But before we get to those lessons, we have to talk about the dark side of this thief. Because everything I've described so far is the slow, normal inflation that governments aim for. Mild, manageable, a trickle. But sometimes, the trickle becomes a flood. And when a country prints money recklessly, with nothing real behind it, inflation can spiral into something terrifying, a monster called hyperinflation. Throughout history, when nations have flooded their economies with money to cover their debts, prices haven't risen by 2 or 3%. They've doubled in a month, then a week, then a day. There are real, documented periods where people were paid twice a day and ran to spend it immediately because by evening it would buy less. Where the cost of a basic meal could change while you were eating it. Where life savings, fortunes built over entire careers, became worthless paper in a matter of months. People who had done everything right watched their security evaporate, not because they made a mistake, but because the value of their money collapsed beneath them. The most famous example happened in Germany about a century ago. Crushed by debt, the country printed money to pay its bills, and the value of its currency didn't just fall, it collapsed into the abyss. Prices rose so fast that workers were paid twice a day and handed their wages in suitcases and wheelbarrows, sprinting to the shops before the money lost more value on the walk there. There are accounts of people stealing the basket a person was carrying their cash in and leaving the worthless money behind. Of the bills becoming so valueless that it was cheaper to burn them for heat than to buy firewood with them. Children reportedly played with bricks of banknotes stacked like toys in the street. A lifetime of savings, a comfortable retirement, a family's entire security could become not enough to buy a loaf of bread in the space of months. And it wasn't a one-time historical freak. It has happened again and again in different countries in different decades. One nation in more recent memory printed money so wildly that it eventually issued a single banknote worth 100 trillion of its own dollars, a piece of paper with a comically enormous number on it that could barely buy a bus ticket. Each time, the story rhymes. A government creates too much money to escape its problems, and the people's savings pay the price. Hyperinflation is the nightmare version of our island story, where the magician doesn't double the money, but multiplies it 1,000-fold, 1,000,000-fold, until the dollars are so plentiful they're worth almost nothing at all. It is historically one of the most destructive financial events that can happen to a society. And it always begins the same way, with the quiet, seemingly harmless creation of just a little too much money. And there's one more uncomfortable truth worth knowing. The official inflation number you hear on the news is an average, a single figure meant to represent an entire economy's worth of prices. But you don't live in the average. Your life has its own personal inflation rate, and for many people, it runs higher than the headline number. Why? Because the things that tend to rise fastest over time are often the things you can't avoid. Housing, healthcare, education, insurance, the necessities. Meanwhile, the things that get cheaper, like certain electronics and gadgets, are often the things you buy rarely. So the official number can look calm and modest, while the actual cost of building a life, a home, raising kids, staying healthy, climbs faster than the headline ever admits. The thief is often busier in your life than the news lets on. So let's turn this entire understanding into power. Because the people who understand inflation don't fear the thief, they learn to outrun it. Here are the real lessons. Lesson 1. Cash sitting idle is melting, not resting. This is the foundational shift. Money in a basic account or under a mattress is not safe in the way you've been told. It is silently and reliably losing value every single year to inflation. Keeping an emergency fund in cash is wise, You need money you can grab instantly. But letting large amounts of cash sit idle for years, earning almost nothing, is one of the most common and most expensive mistakes there is. The first step to beating the thief is simply seeing that it's robbing you. Lesson 2. To beat inflation, you must own things that rise with it. Think back to the island. When the magician doubled the money, who was protected? Not the person clutching dollars, their dollars got weaker. The person protected was the one holding apples, the real thing. The asset. When you own a slice of real, productive things, businesses that sell products people need, assets that the world keeps valuing, their prices tend to float upward on the very same tide of new money that's drowning cash. You stop being the one holding the melting ice cube, and you become the one holding something that grows. That is the entire quiet logic behind why the wealthy rarely keep large fortunes sitting in cash, and why they sleep just fine while inflation runs. This is the heart of it. The reason people invest in things like broad ownership of businesses or real assets that tend to hold value isn't just to get rich. At the most basic level, it's a defense. It's about putting your money into things whose value tends to rise alongside or faster than inflation, so that your wealth grows faster than your money decays. You don't have to be an expert or a gambler. You simply have to understand that doing nothing with your money is itself a choice. And in an inflationary world, it's the choice to slowly lose. Lesson 3. Understand which side of debt you're on. Not all debt is equal. Debt used to buy things that lose value while charging you punishing interest, like high-interest credit card debt on stuff you don't need, is a wealth destroyer, and inflation does not save you from it. But low-interest debt used to own a genuinely valuable, appreciating asset can actually be quietly helped by inflation over time, exactly as we saw. The financially literate don't fear all debt, and they don't love all debt. They know the difference, and that knowledge is worth more than almost any salary. And the deepest lesson of all: inflation is the invisible current running beneath your entire financial life, and you are always swimming in it. The only question is whether you're swimming with it or against it. The person who hoards cash is swimming against the current and slowly drowning no matter how hard they work. The person who understands the game converts their money into things that ride the current upward. The thief never stops working. So the only real protection is to make sure your money is working even harder. So the next time you hear that word on the news, inflation, said so casually, like distant weather, you'll know the truth. It isn't distant. It's in your pocket, in your savings account, in every price you pay. It is the silent thief that visits everyone. And now that you can finally see it, you can finally stop being its easiest victim. If this opened your eyes today, you already know what to do. And stick around, because next time, we're walking through the doors of a place you visit every single week, a place engineered from floor to ceiling to make you spend more than you ever planned. The music, the smells, the layout, the prices, none of it is an accident. By the end, you'll never walk into a store the same way again.